Let's talk about those extensions on string instruments. How do we teach kids to get those extended high threes like C sharp on the G string, for instance, or those extended fourth finger C sharps, for instance, on cellos and bass? How do we teach them to get it in tune consistently and have consistent success? I'm going to share with you today my strategies and what's worked for me. My name is Joel Powell, and I'm a public school orchestra director with 16 years of experience. I've taught elementary, middle, and high school orchestra. I've taught many years at each level, and I absolutely love teaching kids. I've been blessed to have a couple of my groups play the Midwest Clinic in Chicago, and our high school orchestra is also a 3-time Indiana Orchestra state champion. Please be sure to subscribe by clicking below. I post pretty often and like to share a lot of videos with the orchestra director in mind. Please feel free to visit my website at joelpowellconductor.com. I'm always happy to talk shop, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can. I also have some helpful resources on that website as well. So if you want students to play extensions really in tune, the first key is that teaching intonation in your classroom, and intonation in general, has to be a top priority every single day. Not sometimes, every single day. Of course, among other things, but it has to be a top priority. And all too often, orchestra directors just say, well, we'll get it with time. And of course, there's a degree of that is true, but we have to insist upon it every day because we want to grow that skill every single day. And so the kids have to recognize in you that the director is going to insist on me playing in tune every single day. Otherwise, trying to get them to play an extension in tune is kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a really horrible gash that requires sutures. In those beginning stages, and before you get to teaching that first extension, the D scale, the G scale really needs to be well played on violin, viola, cello, and bass before we start to get into some of the more extended ranges. So the basic first octave, really in tune, like on a D scale, for instance. We really want to make sure that they're placing their fingers exactly where it needs to go. And we can use Tonal Energy to hold a drone. That's a great app. If you don't have it, download it. It's worth every penny. It's only about $5 or so, but it's highly worth it. Or a piano or a keyboard in your classroom, anything that's going to give them something to reference against. Because all too often, directors assume, well, kids can't really play in tune. They can. We just have to insist upon it, just like everything else. And we do it with love, but we have to insist upon it. Here's the thing about finger tapes. When they're used poorly, they're absolutely terrible. If you don't put them down exactly on the mark, perfectly in tune, of course, the kids are going to play out of tune all the time. But if you put them exactly on the mark, and you've gone through with a tuner, and you've checked, then it's an added tool. We're taking something that's really abstract and we're making it concrete. We're giving a visualization for kids to be able to play more in tune. And of course, have an exit strategy. When are we going to take those away? Once students get really proficient at these skills, playing extensions and starting to shift into third position, typically is when I start to take that away. When violins, violas, cellos are playing in third position, that's a good time to maybe keep that third position marker, but we're going to start to take away some of the other notes and the other tapes that have been marked. That way kids are starting to continue to develop that ear and rely less visually. But a visualization really helps. It takes an abstract skill and takes a student and helps them to be able to really see, oh, that's where my finger goes, and gives them something concrete to reference. Helps your instruction as well. So now it's time to use those finger tapes to play in tune. And here's the thing, to get this extension in tune, one of the most helpful things you can tell your kids is get your third finger halfway between the third and fourth tape. And you can see here, I've got all my finger tapes. There's the third tape, there's the fourth finger tape. I'm gonna put it halfway between right here. And then my fourth finger is gonna go right on the tape for D, but my third finger goes halfway between. And look, there it is. One of the common mistakes I hear is, well, third and fourth fingers should touch. Actually, rarely do they touch, if you think about it. Most kids, especially if they have narrow fingers, the fingers are not going to touch. Like, look, in my case, there's a little gap between the fingers. So a lot of times, kids might actually be playing it too high. So you want to watch out for that. When they go to play that note, all right, third finger halfway between the third and fourth tape. You're gonna have them hold that. And then it's a really valuable time to check that note against a Tonal Energy type app that holds the pitch and sustains it and gives a drone so that they can hear, oh, am I in tune, am I out of tune? And then try also playing on the piano. You don't have to be a good piano player, but play an A major chord and have the C sharp on the top. Or it could be an F sharp minor chord with the C sharp being the fifth. You can change the tonality so that they can hear, oh yes, I need to move my finger around a little bit. Oh yeah, I can hear I'm out of tune, to help fit that little puzzle piece finger into the right place. One of the things you constantly have to be aware of also is that the students are bringing their elbow around and underneath the instrument. Notice I'm bringing it around this way toward my nose. I'll say, bring the tip of your elbow toward your nose. And that also allows them, especially on the lower strings, to make sure that that finger is landing in tune. Now, if they're on the D string, obviously the elbow is going to be a little less tilted. The A string and the E string, it's almost just straight down, straight under the instrument. But also do not neglect the elbow position. The same is true in cello and double bass as well. We don't want to lift the shoulder stays relaxed, right? Pledge of allegiance, we think of the Pledge of Allegiance, right? Hand over your heart, I pledge allegiance, okay? The ski slope going nice and down, no bend in the wrist, everything's nice and straight going out this way. But as long as that elbow lands in the right position, that's also going to help ensure that the finger gets into the right spot. And all too often, that posture collapses and kids aren't supporting the instrument maybe from their shoulder enough. It's one of the reasons I recommend a shoulder rest. Now, it can be done without it, but a shoulder rest or a sponge, I feel, in my opinion, really helps to elicit good, strong position for the masses. And so I do recommend that as well. But paying attention to that elbow position is very important also to getting that extension in tune. What about on cello, trying to get students to play those extensions in tune on their instrument? Well, again, elbow position is everything. We want that Pledge of Allegiance, right? Very important. The cello in pin at the 1 o'clock, the bottom peg by the left ear. We're always paying attention to good posture, as we do with violin and as we do with viola and bass. But in the left hand on cello, if we're on the G string, that 1, 3, and 4, now I don't have tapes on this particular instrument on my personal cello, but if I would have tapes on the first finger, the third finger, and the fourth finger. And then for extensions, one of the most common mistakes that I see, kids go to stretch to the second finger, but what do they forget to take with them? Their thumb. The thumb should always stay with second finger. Also, the thumb should always be bent outward just slightly, because when it's concave instead of convex, it's going to make it much harder to open your hand up. And think of the power that you have with an O or C shape, right? C because cello is cool, we always tell the kids. I like to tell them that, because cello is cool. But it helps to remind them, don't crush the Coke can. That's gonna cause that extension to be flat every time. And so that posture related matter is very important. But again, what kids almost always forget to do on cello is to take that thumb with them, because of course the thumb should always live behind second finger again. But when you go to extend your second finger, say you're playing A, you're going from A to extended B to C sharp. Well, if you haven't taken the thumb, it makes it really hard to extend that fourth finger because your hand is in this awkward position. But if you open it up and bring your thumb behind that second finger, suddenly it becomes so much easier. Extended 4, now suddenly this is so much easier for me to do. So stay on your cellos about keeping that thumb with the second finger. They will forget it, and it makes it much more challenging for them. And also making sure that the thumb stays right in the middle of the spine of the cello always when they're playing, with the exception when they get into higher position, into thumb position and neck position, and they're bringing the thumb around. But in order to play that extension in tune, the thumb must go with second finger, and I see this mistake constantly. And it's easy to miss because we're not back behind their left hands, but put yourself behind those left hands, and you almost have to just know, all right, that is something that they're probably gonna miss, and I have to make a point of saying that every single time. Really important. One of the common mistakes I see from orchestra teachers sometimes, especially if they're not a low string specialist, if they're an upper string player, they forget sometimes that, oh no, it's not just high 4. You don't just shove the fourth finger past the third tape and get it between the third and fourth tape. On the contrary, you have to extend the second finger. So they'll play first finger A, extended 2 for B. Very important, not third finger. Otherwise, how are you gonna extend that fourth finger? You can do it, but it is gonna hurt. You would never want to do that in actual performance. So instead it's 1, again, bring the thumb behind second finger, extended 2, and then extended C sharp to ensure that that C sharp lands in tune. But remember, from B to C sharp is a whole step. There should never be a whole step in first position for that extension between B and C sharp, between third and fourth finger. No, no, no. First finger A, second finger extended B, fourth finger extended C sharp, and then they have what they need to be able to play that C sharp in tune. Very important though, if you're an upper string player, to understand that cello extension concept, that they're extending the first finger back, 2, 3, and 4 living close together up here. When I'm working to get my double basses to play those fourth fingers really in tune, right there, C sharp, say on the A string, I'm gonna make sure again that that thumb stays behind second finger, that we're also making that C shape. We're not crushing the Coke can. Otherwise, it's gonna make it really tricky to get that extension in tune. And so for our double basses, remember, there's gonna be that gap between first and second finger. 2, 3, and 4 live close together, because from here, from our first tape to our second tape, say from that, on the A string, from the note B to C sharp, the halfway point is actually here, and all too often students want to put it here. So that's another reason that second finger tends to be out of tune, but that's another topic for another day. But get that stretch between 1 and 2, keep that thumb nice and curved, and then it's going to really allow those basses to get the strength that they need, and also that elbow up, not letting it collapse, keeping it nice and strong so that they play in tune. In the background here, I have my Tonal Energy app going, and again, I'm going to reference that every day. So when I go into having the students play exercises, I'm going to have that pitch going. I'm also going to be playing on the piano with them. I'm going to be maybe using a recording if I have an exercise that I'm doing that has a recording with it. I'm thinking of like Essential Elements Interactive, for instance, and Sound Innovations. They've got great recordings you can use. So I have that C sharp going. All right, friends. Set that third finger violins and violas halfway between the third and fourth tape. Check your position. No hands, jaw flex, no hands. Good, bring your left hand up now. And again, I'm making sure they're supporting their instrument with their jaw and their left shoulder without any tension. And then set that third finger halfway. Set 1, set 2, set third finger halfway between the third and fourth tape. And let's check it. Sure enough, it's in tune. All right. Now, it's not going to be that perfect when they first try to do it. You're going to have to go around, manually help to move some fingers. Hey, no, look, this is halfway. Sometimes their perspective might be a little askew, but then tell them, all right, good. Hey, once you go around and help every individual, you play it for me and do it lovingly. You play that note. You play that note. Good. Nice job. Be affirming. Be positive. Once they get it, you say, okay, take a mental snapshot of where that finger goes. All right. So then they're, again, committing that to memory. All right, let's do it again. Ready? And then I'm thinking of like, let's play C sharp in Essential Elements Book 2. You can go ahead then and play that very first exercise. And again, I have that C sharp going in the background. I'm referencing it. Okay, and they can hear, oh yeah, I'm in tune or I'm out of tune. One of the daily drills that I do is an extension drill, and I'm just going to have them play basically the first 3 notes of an A major scale. And it's going to go a little something like this. I'm going to start on 1 finger on the G string if I'm a violin or viola or a cello. Basses are going to start on open A, and they can do this drill as well with us. Ready, go. Then you can do that same drill backwards. Let's go ahead, and this time we're going to start on C sharp instead, and we're going to invert the exercise. So we'll start in C sharp, all right? So that requires them to set it ahead of time. Okay, 1, in the case of cellos, extended 2, extended 4. Check your thumb. Is it bent? Is it curved? And behind second finger cellos, basses, is your thumb curved? Are we not crushing the Coke can? All right, good. Now violins, keep it nice and open. Don't crush the grape right in here. Leave room between your thumb and the palm of your hand. All right, bring your elbow around, get your elbow level. Here we go. Your arm level is brought around, tip of your elbow toward your nose. Now we invert it. We start in C sharp this time. Test it, hold it, friends, softly. Always tuning softly when we're holding a note so that we can hear it. Otherwise, if you're playing so loud, you can't hear the tuner in the classroom. All right, so now let's invert it. You can literally make any drill that you want to. Make your own little drill. You can put it in finale or Sibelius and pass it out to them, or you can just do it by ear and you can kind of make these little drills up on the go. I do this all the time for pieces, especially if there's a skill we're working on. Maybe it's a bowing skill, spiccato or martele. You can make your own little drill. It's just a couple measures long and it helps them to get those skills down. Don't be afraid to be creative in that regard. If they're still not quite playing it in tune, take the time to record them. That's another little thing that you can do. Make a little audio note on your phone and then just play it back to them over the Bluetooth speakers. Hey friends, we're gonna listen back to this. Notice 2 things that were really good about it, 2 things you want to improve. I'm gonna call on a few of you to tell me what you think. That will go a long way in helping them to discern like, oh yeah, I hear it now, it's out of tune. Sometimes when you're playing it and you're doing all the thinking, you don't have time to really listen back as obviously. So building in that listening exercise can really help the kids. One of the very first scales that you're really going to work when you're trying to do extension specifically is the A major scale. It's a great scale to teach them. And I would specifically do the one that starts 1 finger on the G string for violin, viola, and cello. Obviously the open A1 for basses is good. And for basses, it helps them understand half position where they're working on extending their first finger backwards. And oh yes, same for basses. We have to take the thumb with us, same as with cello. There are a lot of similarities there between cello and bass. Just keeping the thumb with us. We're gonna go to half position for G sharp, second finger A. But I'm gonna have them play the A major scale. Don't be afraid of it. Make it a part of your curriculum and what you just do every day when you're trying to work on this skill. So maybe we're gonna just play it half notes really slowly. We don't have to play it really fast at first, just nice and slowly. 2. Here it comes, halfway between the 2 tapes. G sharp, extend halfway between 3rd and 4th finger. 4th finger, no open A. And you can have them freeze and check it against open A to make sure they got there. Is the elbow around? Is the elbow tucked? Okay, come back down. Extend it. Open D. Now you're going to train them while you're playing that open D. You're going to look at your left hand and you're going to place your 3rd finger and make it hover halfway between your 3rd and 4th tape. All too often, going up the A scale is great. Coming down is the problem. And how often do we see that in the music where that extension comes out of nowhere after playing maybe an open string prior to that? So when they're coming down the A scale, hover, place it over the mark halfway between the 3rd and 4th tape, and then plop it right down halfway between that 3rd and 4th tape, right there. So hover, good, nail it. And again, I just have an A, C sharp, and E, an A major chord going on my Tonal Energy, but you could put just a C sharp, you can really do whatever you want, but I recommend having that keynote of the A as well. But the coming down the scale is a really important skill. It's a very important skill because it's going to help them to place that finger out of nowhere to get that extension. For cellos, extending that 4th finger and getting your thumb behind 2nd finger to make sure that that C sharp is landing in tune. And again, be insistent. Do it over and over again in a loving, fun way. Put a fun drum beat maybe on to make it a little bit more exciting. Change up the drum beats. If it's getting stagnant and stale, maybe you have a rock beat. Then you go to a salsa groove. You could really change it up to make it more fun. When it's a problem within a piece, isolate that spot where they're struggling with that C sharp and maybe make it just a 4-bar drill that the whole orchestra plays if it's in particular one section. You can almost even turn it into a chorale where we're going to play it really under tempo and really slowly, and we're going to freeze on that difficult note when we get to it. And if it were, for instance, all right, everyone play those same measures over and over again, that same measure. And and we're just going to keep isolating that over and over, and let's rep it. All right, now just the outside player between you and your stand partner is going to play our basses, every other bass, and the person who's not playing is going to listen, and we're going to notice one thing we really liked and one thing we want them to improve, and then they can converse about it when they get done. So it's student-led feedback, which administrators love and the kids love, because it's not just coming from you, it's coming from them. They're helping one another. Just keep it positive and make sure that they're being nice to each other. Don't let that go in a negative direction. This might seem obvious, but if you get to a particular spot and it's a chord that's out of tune, help them to make sure they understand what they're supposed to listen for. You want to help sort of pre-teach that and say, all right, hey friends, the reason that I'm stopping right here, and we're going to hold this measure 72. We're going to hold that very first note at 72 so that you can hear what it's supposed to sound like. Now I'm going to go over to the piano. Here's what it's supposed to sound like. Well, if we get to that spot and they're consistently out of tune, say it's an A major chord like that, if it's consistently out of tune, well, they're going to hear it, especially if it's, say, the viola or maybe the cello that has that extended C sharp, and they get there. Ooh, I can hear that doesn't fit now. Oh, I do notice. And it's helping them to step back for a moment and go, oh, I see, that extension has to fit in. And I tell them it's like a puzzle piece. We've all had those childhood puzzle pieces that are really large and they fit into the corrugated like cardboard or the corrugated wood along the side, and they fit a specific shape, and they have the little dowel rod in the middle, and it fits perfectly into that puzzle piece slot. That's exactly like our note. And so they know what to listen to. So you're going, hey, listen to that C sharp. That's the note. There it is. All right, hold it. Ready? Nice and softly. Go. Good. Freeze. Stop. The other really important thing that we have to do as directors is to model. All too often we'll say, well, it's too high or it's too low. Even if it's not your main instrument, that's okay. If you're a trombone player and you're finding yourself teaching orchestra, or you're a singer, that's okay. The kids will have forgiveness with you. They'll respect the fact that you're trying to pick up the instrument and try it. So remember, you only have to stay one lesson ahead of the kids. So if that's a challenge for you, that's okay. Just embrace that challenge and demonstrate, model on your instrument as much as possible. One, for tone quality, so they know, oh, that's what it should sound like. That's what it looks like. They want to emulate what's in front of them. But maybe I'm going to play an exercise that involves just like a call and response. Call and response. In the case of this modeling, I could use. So I could say, all right, you echo me. Then they go. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 and so on. But they're also getting the example of good tone quality, good posture. They're seeing everything that they're supposed to be doing as they play, and they're hearing, oh, that's what the note's supposed to sound like. You could go a step further and add the drone in. Since it's in the key of A, I'm going to also have the A in there, the A and the C sharp. And again, I'm just using tonal energy to do that. Ba, 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 ba. Good. And so on. You can play a little game where you go back and forth, a little call and response where they're mimicking that and they're hearing exactly how it's supposed to be played in tune. So you're reinforcing it, the tuner's reinforcing it, but it's that awareness that, this does matter. The big key is don't give up on kids playing in tune. And extensions can be achieved and kids can play them in tune. I know sometimes it just feels like, I'm just going to let that go, whatever. It's middle school kids, it's high school kids, we're close enough. Don't settle. They can do it. And we just have to keep insisting and making playing in tune a daily part of what we do. Because if you are not insanely picky, they are not going to be insanely picky either. So there's going to be a correlation there. So just stay on them about it and do it in a fun, positive way and try some of these strategies. And certainly by no means are these all the strategies. These are just the strategies that I find that really help. And again, by using those tapes as a point of visualization, halfway between the third and fourth tape, it really helps. Then when they have to go on to more advanced extensions, say like an extended fourth finger, like D sharp on the G string for violins and violas, well, now they have an understanding of the spacing between their third finger and fourth finger, where that halfway point would be, which would help them to get that fourth finger D sharp also in tune. Or in the case of cellos, maybe it's shifting up into a higher position, going in a second position and playing an extended position up there. It makes it easier for them to visualize this skill because they have that first position visualization we've helped them with by virtue of having these really in tune tapes on the instrument. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel by clicking below, and I hope you found this video helpful. I post a lot of videos pretty often, specifically with the orchestra director in mind, to offer some of the strategies that I found to be successful. I'm constantly learning and constantly growing, and that's what I love about this profession and why I thank you for being a teacher. It's a science, but oh my goodness, is it an art too? It's really a wonderful mixture of both, and I just thank you for working with kids and for being a positive difference in their lives. And I wish you all the best. Thanks so much.